Nearby Nature is happy to be here with the Urban Ecology Center today. Our relationship goes back to the early days. Nearby Nature Milwaukee, an environmental justice and equity project, was started in 2017 to get residents out in nature in the city, and particularly to address the nature gap in Milwaukee's Black community. Our mission is to support environmental education in youth-serving agencies in our targeted neighborhoods on the Lincoln Creek Greenway and 30th Street corridor, to celebrate and support the environmental movement in Milwaukee's communities of color, to assist in renewal of and access to natural areas in our target neighborhoods, and to address the history of systemic racism and non-inclusiveness in the environmental movement. Nearby Nature supports its mission with youth programs, outings for adults and families, service outings and land stewardship, and an annual celebration of African American environmental pioneers. So as I said, we do youth education, outings, and stewardship, which is mostly what we'll be talking about today in our various areas, especially this Lincoln Creek area. Nearby Nature works to get Northwest Side residents outdoors to feel the healing power of nature, which I know you all appreciate. We also strive to involve residents in planning to ensure that the programs meet their needs. So the focal point is the Lincoln Creek Greenway. This photo was taken west of our main site. A lot of the lands owned by the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, which has made some improvements in recent years. Much of Lincoln Creek was channelized in concrete. So Lincoln Creek runs about 6 miles from Havenwood State Forest off Silver Spring, Wisconsin's only urban state forest, and hopefully many of you have been there, to the Milwaukee River, where it joins at Lincoln Park. So why are we focused on the Black community? Our area of focus has long struggled with high poverty and unemployment and other inequities, as well as less access to transportation. A Rails to Trails Conservancy study found that the pattern of discrimination extends to access to bike trails and green spaces. Think about the county park's great Oak Leaf Trail system. It makes a ring around the city that excludes communities of color in the middle. In Bayview, I can get to a bike trail in 5 or 10 minutes, but if you're living near Lincoln Creek, it may be a while to get to something safe. Nearby Nature began in fall 2017 with a one-time $20,000 grant from the Sierra Club Foundation. Unfortunately, it was just a one-time grant. We still work closely with the Sierra Club's local Great Waters group on various projects, but Nearby Nature is now under the fiscal sponsorship of the Milwaukee Environmental Consortium, which is on Fond du Lac and works with a number of other groups, including Milwaukee Water Commons. David Thomas, a retired MATC educator, Sierran, and experienced outdoors leader, helped write the original grant application and still directs it as a volunteer. This has really been his project, and it's a labor of love for him. This is David. Who knew that there was a 20-acre wild space in the middle of the city where you can forget you're in the city at times? The land's owned by MMSD near its West Basin Stormwater Management Project. The 30th Street Corridor Flood Management Plan was developed in response to flooding around 2010. Our friends at Northwest Side Community Development Corporation are engaging community residents in plans for the West Basin area. Those plans could include things such as a farmer's market. So if you go back here, it's amazing what you can see in this area that we've now called Hopkins Hollow, because it's off Hopkins Avenue. I was surprised to see a coyote there. I think that was the first time I went back there. And there's deer and you know, there's mallards and things, but the highlight was a great horned owl that several people have seen. Sorry, the picture isn't the greatest. The first activities that Nearby Nature engaged in were river cleanups. We adopted a stretch of a half-mile stretch from 35th and Congress north to around Cortlandt Avenue, which is south of Hampton, with the Sierra Club Great Waters Group. And we do cleanups about at least three times a year. There's plenty of trash to go around, and some illegal dumping. Nearby Nature works with the community on cleanups and other service outings, and it also draws volunteers from elsewhere in Milwaukee and the suburbs. These volunteers, many of them white, gain an understanding of the challenges the community faces and learn the importance of getting involved in the city. Here's another shot of Hopkins Hollow from the cleanup just this past weekend. This map shows the Lincoln Creek corridor and how it intersects with the 30th Street industrial corridor. I don't know if you can see my cursor here. So here, Lincoln Creek runs from Haven Woods down over to Lincoln Park, and then there's the 30th Street corridor here and the rail line, and our area is here in the middle with the star. The little green spots are some of the youth serving agencies that we have worked with over the years. The route of the Badger is looking at the rail line on the other side of the river for a rail trail. The other thing this map shows is the UEC radius here at the bottom, and we are outside of the UEC 2-mile radius for Washington Park. So when we got started to get youth programs up and running, we started working with the Urban Ecology Center and contracted with them because they have the expertise and could get things up and running, and we could help them reach into an area that was not part of their service area. So far, there doesn't seem to be any talk of another Urban Ecology Center in the middle there. So educators, including Olivia Roche and Eric Anderson, led after-school programs at places such as Lighthouse Youth Center and Samuel Clemens Elementary. The curriculum centers on environmental science. Educators try to get the children outside at least half of the program time, but obviously they're flexible due to weather and curriculum needs. Nearby Nature hired artist and educator Martina Patterson to lead the youth programs when we got a little money to do things on our own. And the plan was for her to get some mentoring from Urban Ecology Center to do that transition. Unfortunately, COVID hit and that delayed some of those plans, but eventually things got moving again. And then we hired Stephen Hunter as a program director to lead programming for adults. And I will let him take it from here. Stephen, you're muted.
Thanks for that reminder. Jumping into our youth education programming, it's a 10-week program that we this school year have been able to get our program into school, so not just an after-school program. So of course that delivers a whole different kind of impact. You know, kids have their school brain on during school, and then after school they have their recreation brain on. The research shows that when youth spend more time in nature, their scientific thinking goes up tremendously. Because you're out there observing nature and you get to see patterns and make references and inferences and whatnot. So we're in our, oh, what are we in? The 8th week. We, like Karen was saying, we're taking the kids outdoors all the time. Well, most of the time, if weather permits, from doing compass and map work, even with on the school playground where they're familiar. And we build we do an aerial shot of their school grounds, and make a little, treasure trail pathway for them to find using compasses. We take, if there's a park nearby, or if the school even has some green space, we spend a chunk of the time on those green spaces. We've recently partnered with Reflow. Some of you may be familiar with the Green Schools Consortium, which works to help Milwaukee Public Schools for each school to become 85% green. So changing their concrete ground area to orchard, bioswales, just green spaces. Some places they put the schools and the school community votes on what kind of things they want on the school grounds. So you might have like an outdoor classroom with a sunroof and things like that. So we strategically thought to reach out and partner with Reflow because many schools on the north side of town in the Lincoln Creek Greenway don't quite understand maybe or see the value in becoming a green school. So we figure if we get our nature education program there, get some energy and motivation around nature and environmental conservation, then these schools will be more invigorated to become green schools. And we're having a great time with some of these schools. We do a field trip to various nature sites, one field trip a month. We take kids down to Lake Michigan and talk about the Great Water Basin, how all the waters, flow into Lake Michigan. We do, oh, if you could go back to the other slide there. So this is us at Haven Woods. So we have a week like where all the kids go to the same field trip basically. So this was the week before last, and if you remember, like it was a really warm day. I think it was Wednesday, and the garter snakes were out, or the Butler garter snake, and maybe you know that the Butler garter snake is kind of native to Milwaukee County, and we were able to go out and grab a couple and bring them so the kids could experience the Butler garter snake, and it was warm enough for there to be some mating season going on, and we got to explain that. And why are they fighting like that? Next week, we will actually be bringing kids to our Hopkins Hollow space, right off of 35th and Hopkins. And
Stephen, do you want to try and do the video of the snake?
oh yeah, let's try that.
Let's try that. You bear with me here.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Scared. Yeah, okay, relax. She will. She's gonna go.
So Martina is a master
So this is a
naturalist.
non-poisonous snake. The Butler garter snake is primarily found only in Milwaukee County.
Now you see, I'm not squeezing it because I want her to know it's okay. And she's not gonna bite me, but she does her tongue like that, she's just smelling it. You touch her, but don't touch her on the head, touch her body. One at a time, guys. Yeah, not so much so we don't overwhelm her because she's nervous.
Great. Yeah, I was saying about Martina. She did the master naturalist certification with UWM. She's a land steward and is constantly seeking out more and more education to bring to our programs. It's really great. Whenever we're together, I'm doing a lot of listening. She's so knowledgeable. She's very good with ethnobotany. So while we're walking around, she will point out various plants that have healing traits. And historically, with Native Americans, you know, what they have used, various uses of different plants. So yeah. Right. So a lot of kids, and I've worked in the area in youth development with art education and wellness for the past 25 years. And there's a lot of kids who have not been down to the lakefront to see Lake Michigan. Part of the race and place conversation is that along the lakefront, I remember this clearly years ago, African Americans getting harassed by the sheriff being down at the lakefront. And so, of course, you know, who wants that? So they're not going to go down there as much. So this particular shot here is, and they'll be doing this again this summer. It's the Beach Ambassador program that Fund for Lake Michigan, Milwaukee Water Commons, and somebody else. I think it's a grant through Sea Grant, but because there are no lifeguards, what the beach ambassadors do, they will walk around the lakefront on Bradford Beach and teach open water safety methods. Talk about how to use the life preserver that is on a post, but they also share information about what the pH level is of Lake Michigan on that day. Like if today is a good Lake Michigan day, or if today is a day you might just want to put your feet in the water and that's it, kind of thing. So last summer, all of the groups that we worked with, we brought them down to have this conversation. If you call ahead to them, you can schedule a time with them for your groups. It's really great information. They talk about rip currents, how the tide, all of these things. Really good stuff. We last October deepened our relationship with MMSD. There's a lot of love for this space. They granted us permission to build a demonstration trail. So I believe we're like 500 feet. And we asked the neighbors in the area to come out and help build the trail. So it's a non-paved trail. It's a dirt trail. People got to dig and cut branches. We cut down a fairly decent amount of buckthorn to make this happen. So we're happy about that. And we'll be doing, if you check our social media on Facebook and Instagram, we'll be doing a celebration of Hopkins Hollow this summer. We're going to have an opportunity to have what are called peace posts. If any of you know the artist Munir Bahauddin, people will get, there'll be 4x4 cedar planks, 2 of them that will serve as like a gateway entrance to the trail, because right now there's no signage at all. So from standing further away, you wouldn't know that there's a trail there. But these peace posts will serve as a entranceway to the trail. And that will be a community art project where people will be able to do a symbol or a design that they feel represents Lincoln Creek or Hopkins Hollow, and it'll be colored, painted, and that will go on the peace post. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. And this summer, so here's some various groups of us out there working on the trail. Yeah, we would have had a lot of volunteers from the Sierra Club, you know, to jump in and say, hey, yeah, let's help out and build this trail. But that wasn't the purpose. So we you know, slowed that down and, you know, thank you for your help like this far. But what we really want is for this community to have the opportunity to come out and build a trail that's in their neighborhood. So various community partners, Northwest Side CDC, Milwaukee Water Commons came out, the Nature Conservancy. We have a great partnership with the Nature Conservancy because we're this summer going to be doing a prairie restoration project, which MMSD also gave us permission to do, and they're really happy about that. The Nature Conservancy invited us out to their one of their prairie lands in Muskego, I believe it was, to do seed collection. And it was great because it was actually on the winter solstice. It's a really sunny day, a little chilly, but we're out there moving, you know, so it was great. So we really believe in collaborating and sharing knowledge. So a lot of our community partners, organizations that we've worked with, who we know haven't had this experience of seed collecting, particularly in a prairie, we invited them out to go with us. And this included some of the Urban Ecology Center land stewards that Martina did her internship with. So Michaela, Abigail came out. I think someone else came out from UEC as well. So, you know, this provided a good time to have a lot of conversation with the land stewards that are out there with the Nature Conservancy, and to, you know, bounce ideas around, get more ideas about which plants like to grow together in certain types of environments. So that was really helpful. And what other slides do we have? Yep, this is out on the trail again. Oh, that was during the December bird count. Yeah. So we registered the site as on eBird. And just so we had, Karen shared a list of various wildlife that's out there, but also salmon come through there. So during, you know, the salmon run is like, you know, in the fall. So while we were out there doing trail, salmon's in the water. And then because there's salmon in the water, like we look up and we're like, is that, no, that bird is far away. Like, is that a turkey bird? What is that? And sure enough, it was an eagle. So there's eagle flying around in that area when the salmon run is happening. Another really fun story that just recently happened is when we went out to look at the half-acre space that the prairie restoration project will happen on. This was like the finalization of the paperwork and the kickoff with MMSD. And so they came out, and a couple of them like haven't really been in that space. You know, they're civil engineers or on the legal team that we've been talking to. So we walked the space to make sure that the flags and the perimeter was correct. And one of the guys says, oh, I haven't seen the trail. Can we go over there? It's like, oh, sure. So we go over to see the trail. And while we're at the crest of the trail, there's a splash in Lincoln Creek that had the sound to it that like, this wasn't something that fell down into it. This was a muscular splash in the water, like coming up. And so Martina goes down to the water and I'm like, what do we have? She says salmon. And so the MMSD guys, you know, when they're first time in this area, they're like, what? And they run down to the water. And they're like, oh my God, that is salmon. So it was a great experience, you know, to have that with them. Just to have this, you know, go nature, go situation that they haven't had in the space that they manage, which are things that we see kind of all the time. So yeah, this summer we will be hiring a couple of interns. We will also be partnering with River Revitalization Foundation and a couple of other groups. Oh, Milton Byers, who works with the Audubon Society, has a group of teenagers that's called Wild Indigo. So these are all teenagers of color that are hired to engage in all sorts of nature engagements, and they will be partnering with us as well in this area of Hopkins Hollow. We'll be doing soil testing, water testing, and surveying on seeing what is in the space that is native, what is invasive, and sharing that education along with the neighbors and inviting them to come out and be a part of the process as well. So that's a 5-year project. And so we're really, really happy about that. What else do we have? Yeah, this is a gorgeous picture here because the pictures before have just shown Hopkins Hollow in, you know, the fall and the winter, but it's a gorgeous space. You see the Maximilian sunflower, compass plant, goldenrod, the milkweed. I mean, it's this great prairie space just bursting with color during the summer. And yeah, so I'm really glad that picture is in there. Yeah, so we are donated trees, little cute baby trees by the Argosy Foundation, and we share those trees out. And actually today, when we finish here, I'll be going, there's a school that we're partnering with Northwest Side CDC in the city along the area. There's a space called Green Tech Station that's off of 30th and Hopkins. That was a brown field that Northwest Side CDC and various partners have, you know, worked to bring that space around where there's plant life there now. And it's a nice kind of educational space about how urban spaces can go from being a brown field with, you know, contaminants from industrialized areas to a more naturalized area. So we'll be giving out trees today and explaining tree care, and then also like why we are giving out these particular trees, which will be 3 different oaks. This will be sharing about like how oaks carry the most water, and you know, like why the bark is the way it is as a flame retardant from prairie burns and things of that nature. Yeah, so building that connection. And we will this summer, well, let me back up a little bit. Since the fall, we've been having Lincoln Creek Greenway conversations with the public, with other nature-based organizations and, you know, conservation groups, because Lincoln Creek does not get the attention that the other waterways in Milwaukee have been getting. Part of it is because when we brought when Kevin Schaefer, who's the executive director of MMSD, came out, we had to, like I said, get permission to do the trail. he came out to talk with us about the project, and was really happy that we had been bringing groups out to do birding and to hike through the area, because he's been, wanting to activate the space. He shared this story. He says when he first joined MMSD 20 some years ago, the director at the time was Beth. I forget Beth's last name, but Beth took him along Lincoln Creek in its channelized or concreted state, took him on a tour, and he says, she looked at him and says, "You see this?" He's like, "Yeah." She said, "Fix it." He's like, "Yes, ma'am." And so that was his first green infrastructure, blue and green infrastructure project. But when you think about it, 20 years ago, this was before all of the public conversation around blue and green infrastructure. So all of the hype around why are we doing this, and community engagement, that the KK River and the Menominee River, all of that is celebrated, but Lincoln Creek happened before, again, the public knew about this kind of thing. So Lincoln Creek kind of, back then, people really just thought it was just sewage runoff, and didn't know that Lincoln Creek was an actual greenway, because what real greenway is in concrete? It's just not the right image. But like now that, like, say again, the KKK, or the KK River, sorry, is being redone and people are involved, there's much more education and acknowledgement around that. So we're doing a Lincoln Creek Greenway Summit with community stakeholders, that's based on the conversations that we had. And we're using the revitalization of the Milwaukee River Greenway Coalition as a model to, I'm looking at the chats as well, so I'm kind of getting a little distracted. But as a model for drawing more attention around the various issues that happen on Lincoln Creek, from illegal dumping to the baldness, so there's not enough tree canopy around the greenway. And also we're looking to let it be known as a greenway. We're Nearby Nature Milwaukee, and our groups are kind of the only ones who refer to Lincoln Creek as a greenway. And so Lincoln Creek is not named on a lot of maps. And so, like, whenever I see a map that has the waterways, outlined, I look and look and look, and I'm like, yeah, we don't have a name on this map, So if we can get like a capital G on the greenway, then that kind of changes some things, and so we're hoping that happens. I see a question that says, "What is blue infrastructure?" Blue infrastructure has to do with the natural waterways, and how, because with Milwaukee being a wetland, there is flooding, right? So there's two main floods that happen. There's the 100-year flood, and then there's the 10-year flood. When Lincoln Creek had its major flood back in the late 90s or early 2000s, as part of the 100-year flood, there was a hospital on 24th and Villard, a main hospital, St. Michael's, and it flooded St. Michael's. And one of my clients is a doctor, and we were talking about this, and she says, when St. Michael's, that was my first year as a full-fledged doctor. I was at St. Michael's, and we saw the waters coming in, and we said, somebody call engineering and see what's going on here. but the waters like really start coming, like, this is not engineering. We don't have this much water, you know? So St. Michael's is no longer there. There's now an an Ascension clinic that's there with a beautiful, if you've not been over there, there's a beautiful community garden, huge, that it's a really nice situation. There's a community nurse that manages that. And what happens is that you can have some of your sessions, like with your physician, out in the garden and have this really nice, peaceful talk, as opposed to being like, you know, in a clinic, you know. So yeah. What else are we? Yeah, the Coalition to Battle Trash and Illegal Dumping. This was on the news. It was ridiculous, because what happens is because people like construction groups think that no one really cares about this area, and because you have to pay to dump your debris and refuse with the city, you've got to pay for it. People will look for what they consider to be an unthreatening, you know, or inconsequential area to dump their stuff. But we were calling this Mount Trashmore. This picture is not, this picture is the mild level, because this grew to be very high when it was on the news. It was really, what happened though, because it was so grotesque, it was just horrible. I forget what channel came out to cover this, but part of the issue here was, whose land is this? So there's some areas of, you know, that's MMSD, there's some areas that's county, there's some areas that's city. You know, when this kind of thing reaches the media networks, then everybody comes out. So the city came out, the Department of Sanitation, the director of County Parks came out, county supervisors, the aldermen, you know, everybody comes out when the news comes out. And promises were made. And within a week, this was cleaned up. And then a fence was put around this area to furthermore detract from this kind of thing happening. And a lot of jurisdictional conversation, or obfuscation rather, was cleared up from having that situation when everyone came out to deal with it. So we feel good about that. We did the Lincoln Creek bike and hikes last year, which we'll be doing this year as well. And you'll be welcome to join. You know, again, follow us on our social media. It was all about, you know, bringing attention to Lincoln Creek. There were areas where we biked along Lincoln Creek, where we were never more than like maybe 2 blocks away from Lincoln Creek. And then there are some areas where, so this is Lincoln Creek in this picture off to the left there, where those trees are. And so we were able to, you know, hike along this area and have conversation. We were greeted by a family of sandhill cranes on the other side of this. Yeah, but, you know, great ways to get out, enjoy nature, and you know, which we know the science shows that it increases, you know, your social, emotional well-being, being out in nature. There's a lot of science around that. Like there's no right angles in nature. There's nothing telling you that, like, no, exactly like this in nature. As you know, biodiversity is a needed thing in nature. So you need a variety of shapes, you need a variety of colors, you need a variety of textures, and all those things. Yeah. So again, all of the recreational things that we do, from hiking and biking and paddling and backpacking, and the conservation and preservation efforts as well, with the cleanups, invasive control, trail building, prairie restoration and seed collection. So to have both sides is important, the recreational side and the conservation and preservation side, because all of this also lends itself towards the conversation around access and race and space. To have more conversation and hands-on experiences builds stronger possibilities, having more African Americans being or holding positions in environmental and blue and green careers, which of course spreads back to the community at large. So yeah, another spot that's at Haven Woods from the bike and hike. When we did, so the last part of the bike and hike, we called our pedal to paddle ride. So we can go back to the kayak slide there. Yeah, so a lot of Black folk, this is their first time kayaking. We biked from the Hopkins Hollow area, went to visit 24th and Villard, which, by the way, when we did a Doors Open Milwaukee tour, we brought people under and did a hike under that pedestrian bridge of 24th and Villard, because we wanted to show off that there's beaver chew in that area. So we're really happy about that. You know, nature's coming back and being revitalized. But yeah, so the pedal to paddle ride, this was a lot of Black folks' first time kayaking, so we're happy to provide that experience. Kayaking season, you know, opening up soon, and hopefully the weather, you know, works with us. We always joke about when we go down to Milwaukee River to kayak and say, hey, anybody got any water in your car? The water's kind of low, you know. Anybody got an extra gallon of water? So yeah. Yeah, we have every second Saturday of the month, we do an outing. So this was in December. We had 60 people. And it was great, you know, for that many people to be there. We hadn't quite planned for that. You know, you go out and do the prep hike and discuss what is best to talk about at this point on the hike, and what is best to talk about this at this point. And there's 60 people, so it kind of slightly shifted a bit, but we had a great time. There was we walked across the frozen river and talked about like how to identify where that's safe to do so. Yeah, it was a really good hike. We always do a land acknowledgement, which, if you're not familiar with that, is paying honor to the people who were here before us, as we're in this industrialized space, but who were the people who stewarded this land in natural ways that were methods in balance with nature, before the machinations and the glass and the metal and the rubber and everything. And there were a couple of people who were along this space or this event who didn't understand that and didn't quite have respect for that, who verbalized this, and I invited them to, well, hey, you know, this is public space. You are totally free to go walk around on your own. We are not a sports and recreation organization. we are a nature education organization that honors nature. So if you need to go jogging or something, go ahead. You're perfectly welcome to do that. Maybe we'll see you on the trail. But this is our process, and you know, we are unapologetic about it. Yeah, so we partner with Washington Parks UEC, and we did it was really fun, a camping demo last year during their, what was it? Their autumn festival. So we had people to help set up tents, and a few of our, you know, community partners came out and brought their stoves and made fajitas, you know, had a great time. And so we shared with people that, you know, when you become a member with the UEC, you can borrow all of this equipment at no extra cost, which a lot of people, you know, don't know. So that was a really fun event. So we've got 5 more minutes. And let me look at the chat, or if there's a couple of questions that I can deal with really quickly. Someone said, what does CDC stand for? I think maybe I was misheard for UEC, which is the Urban Ecology Center. But I don't think I mentioned the CDC.
Well, Northwest Side CD, Northwest
Oh,
Side.
Northwest Side CDC. Northwest Side CDC is Community Development Corps. So that organization looks to revitalize the economic infrastructure of a space in Milwaukee, in the Garden Homes, Garden Park, what was it, how you say that? Garden Homes area, which was at one time the best place for African Americans to live in the country, I believe, because of job opportunities, land ownership opportunities. There was a lot of manufacturing in the area, and not as much racism as other spaces. So Black folk were able to, you know, have life-sustaining jobs and build a certain amount of financial wealth and legacy in that area, which is now not the case. So Northwest Side CDC looks to help to revitalize that area. And they're one of our main partners, because whereas we don't have community organizers, Northwest Side CDC does have community organizers. So we partner with them on various events and activities.